Hey there, everyone. It's Julie Hutchison here from Think, Be, Do Leadership, and we are on day 22 of Communication Fest, the communication tips, 30 days of communication tips to improve your influence and impact and to have a better job, have a better team, and have a better business. So today, I said 22, didn't I? What are we going to be doing today? Well, today we are talking about if you're in the room, be in the room. What on earth does that mean? Well, you know when it happens, when you kind of like lose interest and your mind's in a different place and you're looking at your watch, or it's time for tea and you're thinking, what am I going to cook tonight? And all of those things when you're in a meeting or you're talking to, especially if you're just talking to one person, that's never a good idea. And your eyes move, off as you're watching some amazing person walking past or something, or you're just like, you've gone off on a little trip in your mind somewhere, and then the person says, are you listening to me? Or you can tell that they know that you've just gone off on a little place. Or if you're in a meeting and somebody says, hey, Bob, are you with us, Bob? And you're like, oh, yes, I'm here. But you're a little bit bored maybe, and you've got more and more, lots of things on your mind and more interesting things to think about. And the problem is that when we think we've got away with it, we think it didn't really have a massive impact. The trouble is it does. And that's what I want to talk about today, and how we can change that round to be super positive. So if you're listening to this live, please do say hello. Love to hear your comments. And if you're on replay, just put hashtag replay before your comments so I know. Thank you. So some people are like really bad at this, and they're what I call serial offenders, and they do it all the time because they have no intention of really listening to you. And you know the ones, the people that never listen. They're always just waiting for an opportunity to speak, and they kind of glaze over when you start talking. Or maybe everybody glazes over when you start talking. Who knows? Hopefully not after we've done all these communication tips. But if you're the one who finds yourself doing it, and people say, well, I'm not sure you're listening to me. Are you listening? If you get that one, then you're probably not. And maybe you're not listening. Maybe you recognize that this is something that you have a problem with, or that you're trying to talk over people. So if it's you, then we want to talk about why that's a problem. And if it's somebody else doing it to you, well, that's a problem because it makes you feel rubbish, doesn't it? So what do I mean? If I'm in the room, be in the room. Well, first of all, if ever anybody has done that to you, how do you feel? Okay, so when people do it to me, not everybody does it. So I probably go on a bit, but I'm not boring, hopefully. But people, if they do it, I look at them and it annoys me. It makes me feel like unvalued. Is that a word? Devalued or undervalued. It makes me feel like they don't care. It makes me feel like, well, they must think they've got better things to do. It makes me angry, actually, and a lot of emotions. But it also makes me feel like, well, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm not going to do what you want me to do when you speak. So the relationship is breaking down because that person's not listening to me, and I don't feel like they really care less. So if you have a tendency to do this, then your impact is going to be exactly that on people. So if you feel like you're trying to build a team or build a business and you are not really paying attention with your mind wandering, I know you don't mean it, but if you do, then you're going to be losing those relationships, and people are going to be far less helpful to you because they don't feel like you care. And if you don't care, then they're not going to care. So why do we do it? Why? When we have every intention, don't we, of listening? Most people do. But you can't help it because your mind's gone. And you're like, oh, where did I go? You just kind of like float off. And that's normal, and it's human nature, and it's to be expected. But how do you prevent that then? How do you, and why should you do something different? Well, imagine it the other way around. So instead of somebody like not listening to you when you're speaking, and they're like this glazing off, I can't do it on the trying to do it on the camera like that, or me looking at something going past outside in the street. Imagine that happening. Now imagine the exact opposite. Imagine when you're talking to somebody, they are paying attention and they are really listening to you, and you feel like they're really understanding every word you said, and they're nodding, and they're like agreeing with you or disagreeing, whichever way, but you're having a conversation and the conversation is relevant and you can see that that person is really paying attention to you. And at the end of your conversation, whether you disagree or you agree, you've had a really good conversation. How do you feel? You feel amazing. You feel heard, you feel cared about, you feel respected, and therefore you respect that person back. You feel like, well, actually, Bob's a good bloke or Jenny's a great woman. Because they listen to what I had to say. So it gives you validation. And even if people don't agree with you, at least you can have that discussion. So that's how it makes people feel. And if you make people feel like that, then you are going to build those relationships. You are going to build the trust with those people that actually you're going to listen to their concerns or their ideas or their desires. And therefore, they're going to have a better experience working with you in the team or wherever you are. So if that's how they're going to feel and they're going to feel better about their experience, then clearly they're going to want to work with you more and they're going to want to do more for you and with you in your team. So the productivity is going to go up. The enjoyment is going to go up. The camaraderie is going to go up. The collaboration is going to go up. So everything is going to be improved. The output, the response to all of that is that the result is better. Yeah. So it's well worth actually building relationships through paying attention and not letting your mind wander. And when I talk about being in the room, what I mean is, look, I'm here physically, but if I'm not here mentally, in that meeting when I'm like this, if I'm not here, that's not good enough. We need to be paying attention, listening to what people have got to say, and showing that we are there for the meeting. Okay, so how do we do that then? Well, easy stuff really that can help us to stay in the room. First of all, is set that intention. Because when you go to a meeting or something like that and you're like, oh, Bob's super boring, I don't really want to listen to this, or oh, this is going to go on for ages. It's the stories that we tell ourselves are going to make a difference to how we behave, because it makes changes how we think, and therefore it changes how we behave. So let's tell ourselves a good story. I'm going to really pay attention in this meeting. I'm going to listen to what Bob has to say, and I'm going to really make a difference in this meeting. So first of all, you're on the right track. And then the very best thing you can do is actively listen, because when we're passive, when we sit back, as I sit back now, our body relaxes, and that enables us to have our mind wandering all over the place. So let's be like a meerkat, I suppose, and sit up ready to receive some information. Because when you listen, that's when that person is going to feel really comfortable and is going to give you the right information. So is ready to receive. Because I know we're talking about communication here, but communication isn't all about transmit, is it? It's about receiving that information. It's about really understanding it. So sitting up, ready, active listening. What do I mean? Well, I said earlier on, if somebody is agreeing with you, they're nodding, they're talking to you, they're saying, oh yeah, that sounds really interesting, or they're repeating back to you what you said, or right, yeah, blue cars are brilliant, or whatever it might be. Yeah. So these are simple ways of making sure that person knows that you're listening and proving that you understand what they're saying, and also not just proving it, but actually understanding what they're saying and getting the point. So for example, just a little bit of, and not ridiculously like a nodding dog, but a little bit of like, nodding when you agree with something, a bit of eye contact. Why eye contact? Because if you're looking at somebody, you're not looking at anybody else. So you're giving them your attention. You're surrendering your time to them. You're surrendering it, and you're giving them the respect of what they're going to say. So eye contact is massively important. Third point is summarizing. This is amazing for people feeling that they really have been heard and understood. So somebody's gone on for 10 minutes and clearly your mind could wander all over the place. But if you're paying attention and you're thinking, okay, what are the 3 main points of this? You summarize that back to them. Say, okay, Bob, so is what you're saying is that you like blue cars and you think you should get a really good one and it's not going to cost too much money. Have I got that right? Now, when you summarize, like I said, that's going to make people feel like, yep, you've got it. And if you haven't got it, then they're going to be able to say, no, not quite right. So they're going to be able to change it. So it removes some of the problems with mistakes on understanding. But the other thing is at the end of that, you can say, have I got that right? And that means that you are checking in. That's the fourth point. Checking in, is what I'm understanding of this correct? Straight in the eye. And now what you're doing is not only are you properly listening, giving it back to them, making sure they know you're listening, you've actually got the right end of the stick. And as a little bonus, when Bob goes on and on and on and on, and everybody else isn't listening because they're bored witless, you've just summarized the main part of what that person said in 3 easy points. So everybody else is going to think you're an absolute star because they weren't listening, and now they know what on earth Bob was going on about. Okay, so remember, set your intention, pay attention, eye contact, what else to say? Summarizing, checking in, and a bit of nodding. Okay, that's enough for today. I hope you found that useful. But remember, when you're in the room, be in the room. I'm Julie Hutchison from Think, Be, Do Leadership. And if you found this useful, then don't forget there are 30 days in total of this Communication Fest. And if you want to find out how we can help you to bring better communication into your business, then we have a 12-week confident communicator program that we are running very shortly. But we also do come into your business and work with your whole team on how to develop confident communication. So if that's something that you would like to speak to me about, then by all means, just private message me, and I will give you all the details of how we can set that up. Okay, don't forget, tomorrow we'll be doing another tip. You take care. Bye-bye.